You should avoid these 5 mistakes in applying for the EB-2 National Interest Waiver. That's why we are inviting you from the beginning until the end of this video to stay here, because this material is very important for those who are applying for the EB-2. So the EB-2 National Interest Waiver Visa is giving you the possibility to apply for the permanent resident card, not only for you, but for your family, and you are going to be able, maybe in the future, to apply for the US citizenship. So stay here from the beginning until the end. The first mistake is the weak proposal endeavor. Remember that the proposal endeavor is that plan that you will have to provide benefits to the United States in the future. So you must base your EB-2 National Interest Waiver petition on that proposal endeavor. And that proposal endeavor cannot be vague, cannot be weak. That proposal endeavor must be detailed. That proposal endeavor cannot be generic. For example, I want to continue working in engineer. That's a weak proposal endeavor. Or copying examples from ChatGPT or from another maybe petition that that you have from another person that already was approved, or perhaps you see something in Google. No, that's the mistake number one that you should avoid. Failing to demonstrate how your project is going to have an impact. Remember that the proposal endeavor is going to provide an impact in the United States. So that's the most important reason, because you are going to apply for the EB-2 National Interest Waiver. Important tip here is that you have to align your expertise to the U.S. national goals, to that possibility that you have within the evidence and your proposal endeavor in order for you to have an impact in the United States government's goals. That's the proposal endeavor. That's the proposal endeavor that is instead of the weak proposal endeavor that you must provide to the USCIS officer. Well, this mistake is very common. Insufficient evidence. Insufficient evidence is one of the most common mistakes. Why it matters? Because to satisfy the national interest waiver part, so that section, that specific requirement that USCIS is asking for, so you must provide evidence, relevant evidence, that your proposal endeavor is of substantial merit and of national importance. So the common mistakes is to understand maybe that because you have a master's degree, you have a specializations, or you have a high degree like a PhD, that's enough. Assuming that high degree of years of experience, for example, is enough, is a big mistake. Only showing, for example, academic credentials or titles is not enough. The important tip here is to include evidence like, for example, third-party recognitions, citations, letters of recommendations, or proof of implementation of that particular proposal endeavor of your work that is the national importance, is the most important part to avoid this particular mistake. Perhaps one of the most important requirements or elements that you can enclose within that package of the EB-2 National Interest Waiver is the letter of recommendation. The letter of recommendation matters because the letter of recommendation is a very well supported evidence. It's a relevant evidence that is providing the USCIS officer that you have not only the experience, by providing evidence in order for you to reinforce that your proposal endeavor is going to have an impact, is going to have a benefit to the United States. That's why the common mistakes of these letters of recommendations, when they are failing that structure, they are using you are using generic templates, for example. That's a big mistake. The second aspect is that you are asking friends or co-workers in the same level of importance like you, for example, to write a letter of recommendation. That's the worst scenario. So, people who are above you, not below you, or in the same level like you. The third mistake within these letters of recommendation is submitting letters without concrete examples of measurable contributions. Tips for this is to have letters from independent experts, for example, not from your supervisors or friends, and to be sure that these letters include, for example, specific achievements, projects, or policy contributions. That's the most important. Well, this mistake is very common too within people that are contacting our legal office every day, and it's ignoring legal strategy. So, in other words, people they want to have this package or this petition by themselves, and finally they are not having a legal structure. The only one that can provide legal advice and legal structure is an immigration lawyer. So the immigration lawyer is going to provide you the correct way to structure your EB-2 national interest waiver in order for you to avoid the following mistakes. Submitting all documents at once without an analysis, that's the worst scenario. Second, failing to connect your background with every single element of matter of dinosaur, which is the substantial national importance, well positioned to advance the proposal endeavor and significant benefits to the United States in order for you to avoid the labor certification. So in order for that, it's impracticable for the government to ask for labor certification for you. So this is very important. That's why the tips for this is a strong EB-2 national interest waiver petition is not just a stack of papers, for example. It's a legal argument supported by evidence of law and not just credentials, for example. And the fifth mistake that is very common is failing to have a professional representation. That's one of the most important mistakes that you should avoid, because otherwise you are going to have less possibility to have the permanent resident card approved throughout this important path. So one of the most important aspects in having a legal representation for this is that you are going to have a legal counsel always for you in order for you to have a very well structured with respect to the national importance, with respect to be ready for any request for evidence or any other factor that are going to have throughout this important path. So the most important part here is to avoid these 5 mistakes. These 5 mistakes are very, very important to avoid in order for you to obtain your green card throughout the EB-2 national interest waiver visa. We can help you to succeed. Please contact us to our WhatsApp +1 305 482 1595. And we are going to be willing and able to respond your questions, your inquiries about this particular EB-2 national interest waiver visa. Also, you can send us your CV and we are going to analyze this particular professional background by free. So we are going to analyze your curriculum and we are going to provide you with the information whether or not you are able to apply for this particular EB-2 national interest waiver in order for you to start your process for your green card application. See you then, and follow us. You can subscribe us here in our YouTube channel or our social media. Thank you so much. This is Luis Victoria, immigration lawyer from Miami, Florida. Thank you.